Okay.
This next question, after just hearing that, probably is a dumb one, but do you try to be like a good role model for kids, or do you think you're some people's role model?
I do. I I actively try to keep a social media that's very clean from even complaining and swearing, and I do it specifically and because I do it for my students. So if I have anybody that is even a prospective student, they always see me as a positive, clean figure to look up to. That doesn't mean that all of them do, but even if it's 1 in 20 of them that do, I want to make sure that they have something positive to look at that they can model themselves after.
Do you think like any celebrities or athletes at all can even like consider being a good role model, or are they all just crazy?
I don't think there's an all. I think there's a lot that are poor role models, but part of the problem is probably that the ones that are poor role models get the most media attention, so they end up getting looked at even more and more. And even if they're a decent role model, they might have their negatives brought out very, very harshly. Um, I think that specific sports might have better role models than others, but it's just, I mean, everybody has their problems, but I think there's probably role models out there that aren't being noticed.
Okay, did you always like want to be a sensei growing up, or did like your career path, what you want to do, change over the time just growing up?
It changed over the time. Um, it went from like video game programmer to psychology person to teacher to sensei, and I'm not done with my job. My job path even as a sensei, I never see it as a only job. I also work a lot in sales and then different things as far as teaching.
Okay, do you feel anyone like influenced you to like go on those certain career paths, or is this like you read about it and you're like, oh, this sounds interesting?
A lot of it had to do with myself growing up in karate as a from teenager on to adult, and I had an opportunity where I was asked to invest into the karate school as a partner and to take over part of the teaching role. And after 5 years of partially teaching and managing, I made a bigger decision to take on the full managerial aspect of one karate school. So it developed over time as far as leadership goes, and then opportunity arose, and then it just kept going in that direction.
Okay, where's another question? I just had it. Oh, I lost it. It was a good one too. Let me see what else I got on. It'll come back to me. Uh, um, all right, trying to like with your attitudes and stuff you're talking about. Like, do you like? Is it like? Do you act differently with like certain types of age ranges or something? Like,
I'll say I do and I don't, whereas I try to, like the same image I put out for children, I also put out towards adults too. Because I'd rather myself be transformed into the role model I want to be than try to put on a front. So instead of just not swearing in front of kids, I just don't swear. And instead of like not posting drinking pictures on Facebook, I just don't drink. So it's not a like I feel myself and kids would know as far as if I were saying something and doing another, it comes off as non genuine.
okay. Like for people who have like issues and hardships, what do you think like a possible solution would be? Like I know you said karate kind of turned your life around, but what if like they don't have the money to afford that stuff and they don't have a program like where Steve's like, oh, help out and you can do it for free?
Right. I think it's one of the harder things that we have right now. Is with or without the money, is people don't have an outlet that's positive that they can go and do, and they can be a part of a bigger thing than themselves. Like even like when it comes to sports, I think they help a lot, but it still goes to the sport that fits your personality and fits your needs. Where I did gymnastics in high school, but I tried wrestling and I found a lot of negativity when I was doing that sport. But I found when I got to gymnastics that it was a team that seemed to fit my personality needs and my social like lackings, I guess, so that I could be a part of a team, but also being an individual. And that was the cost of just being in school.
Right.
There's other clubs out there that are free or like ridiculously low price that just getting in and like I'm sure you might not be the coolest kid if you're hanging out at the library, but you might be hanging out with people that are positive and bringing like knowledge to you or something like that. I think it's just as harder to find.
Okay. Do you feel like families or kids like with like the money status, do you think that kind of influences like their attitude, like a family with less money will act different than a kid who's like rich or something?
I'll say yes by default. Where I've worked with different families and like currently I'm a nanny for a wealthy family in Hinsdale, and I've also been a nanny for somebody that was less off, I guess considered middle as far as income in Villa Park, and like the social dynamic, the structure, what the kids are involved in is completely different based off of their economic viability, I guess. Like one family had 3 kids, the other family had 2, and it was the 2 is the wealthier family, and they're in any sport that they feel is fun and that they learn from, and they also get toys and get expensive like learning aids and tutors and stuff like that. And the other 3 were sometimes in sports if it was free or cheap, and sometimes able to go to social events, and they might have electronics if they saved up the money and got it themselves. There's huge dynamics of what money will do, I guess.
Do you feel like people with lesser money, it's like it's good to have like like a friend like you who's kind of like a little bit wealthier out who understands like the situation and is willing to help out a little bit more, and kind of like how Steve was with like helping people who didn't have a lot of cash to come to karate and stuff like that?
I'll say with Steve, as far as him helping out students that were in financial hardships, it's a good and a bad thing. Obviously, the good thing is that they get a positive place to hang out and be a part of. The downside would be like it's a precedent that is, if not monitored, then people might take advantage of you.
Ah.
And I've had it happen both ways for myself, but it's ridiculously helpful to have somebody that's in that mindset. It's usually better, from my point of view, to have the risk of being taken advantage of and try to help somebody like have a positive place to be, and with the right mindset, then you just assume that somebody's just trying to get something for cheap or free. It doesn't mean that everybody will still take the option. That's still like personal preference or family style. Some people say no, even with like lower cost or free.
Okay. And last question, like with all the things like with social media and like factors, do you think like there's like I'm trying to think of a way to put this, but like, do you think there's air quotes hope for like children and stuff who are kind of going through some hard stuff and like seeing these things all around?
So, as in like
Do you
social media affecting them,
yeah,
giving them more hope or something like that?
is there like a do you feel like there's like these kids who are kind of getting I guess brainwashed? Do you think like there's hope that eventually like they'll see a light or something and be like, I should stop acting like this on Twitter. I'm not gonna act like that in person. I should get in better friends. I should not like be with the bad people. Do you think like they'll see a light, or do you think they'll just keep going down that path till it's too late to turn back?
I'll say it's kind of like there's definitely hope. There's always hope in a way that somebody will kind of catch on in a more positive way. I've seen somebody that was in karate when they were 17 and after they were done with high school, it had nothing to do with, or they were kind of more poor side, and I've been following them on Facebook for the last 3 or 4 years, and that they might be trying to go to college, but they're also kind of spiraling out of control as far as, like, who they're hanging out with, who they're drinking with, and what kind of crazy things they're posting about. But I've also seen people that were about that same age group that, like, kind of clicked, and they found a place that, like, whether it be somebody that found the Masons, and they have kind of like a business fraternity style where they have something positive to talk about and a good place to be, where they've continued on with their school, and not saying that school is required, but that they kind of have a path, and they had to find it themselves, just like the other person didn't find it themselves. It's almost like fishing or something. Some people will get a good line, and maybe it always takes an external friend or helper, and maybe it just takes that tenaciousness to find somebody that, or find something that works. I definitely keep the person that isn't doing perfect in my streams so I can see, and maybe there's going to be a point when I can help them out with something, but I can't guarantee it ever will happen.